Welcome back. You found Fritz. Today's video represents the first installment of my creative series. In these videos, I break down the process that goes into creating new original music. From writing to arranging, producing to engineering, to mixing to etc. Each song in this series will have its own accompanying music video and a playlist that will dive into all of the aspects that went into making the song. The first song in this series is called To the Moon in a Hurricane. I really hope you find it useful, and please post any questions that may arise in the comment section below. Thanks a lot, and let's get started. I can't remember quite who said this. It might have been Steven Tyler or David Lee Roth, or neither of them. But generally speaking, a band needs to play an original song about 100 times live before it's truly unique and their own. I remember this process well when playing live with bands. You'd always try playing something a little different every time, whether it was conscious or not, and then the best ideas would reveal themselves through sticking around and standing the test of time. So I suppose when you're building a song from scratch in your home studio, the time spent can increase exponentially. There certainly are times when a full song, and by that I mean a primary instrument and a vocal, will seemingly fall out of nowhere from start to finish. That does happen. However, most of the time when you're making full productions by yourself or even with a band, the best ideas, either lyrically, harmonically, or melodically, can take a lot of time to develop. I mention this because a common point of failure for a musician is the festering and expanding belief that what they are doing is just taking too long. This belief may be the result of the instant gratification culture that we live in. After all, how is it realistic to assume an artist is to keep up with the demands of a culture that is every day, week, and month expecting something new from them, while at the same time expecting the quality of the music they make to stand up to the musical ideas that used to have a lot more time to grow and crystallize before being finalized? Remember, even though it may have been reported that your favorite band recorded their historical, momentous album in just a few short days or weeks, the process that went into making those songs most likely matured in a much longer amount of time, through playing them live or at least rehearsing them and working out the kinks. And on top of that, they probably had the luxury of working with a record producer and an engineer to keep them on their feet and bounce ideas off of in the studio. So don't beat yourself up for taking the time necessary to allow your ideas to flow. If you have feelings of self-doubt, it doesn't mean that you're fraudulent or untalented or any of that stuff. It just means that you're human, and it's something that everybody in this industry encounters once in a while. So with that out of the way, let's jump into logic and see how this song unfolds. To the Moon in a Hurricane started as a simple bass line that was fun to play and mess around with while waiting for incredibly intensive Acoustica audio plugins to render. On the display, you can see just a few of them that I used. And if you'd like to learn more about those, then check out the mix video of this playlist. But for now, I'll keep the tracks frozen so that they don't tax the CPU. So the only channels that have active plugins on them right now are the buses and the aux tracks. Once you start working with projects with a high amount of tracks with lots of plugins on them, you'll find that you have to freeze a lot of them in order to keep working. The bass, which is a Fender USA Jazz bass from 2019, was recorded through a Radial JDI Direct Box into the preamp of my Chandler TG2, and then into a Warm WA76, which is a recreation of the Universal Audio 1176. And it's just knocking back about 3 to 5 decibels at most on the way in through the Apogee Symphony Mark II. The bass was played with a Mix Picks UKE2, which is made of a composite material that maintains the good attack you get from playing with a pick while minimizing the undesirable aspects that you might associate with pick playing, such as the harsh noises that you can get in the upper mid-range. While I don't always record bass with a pick, I do find that when I need a really controlled low end and precision, it's good to have one on hand. So as is pretty standard for a lot of songs, the hooky parts were actually the easiest to come up with, and the chord changes that laid down the skeleton structure of the song were what ended up constituting what you might consider the actual work. After all, it's fun to walk around and create interesting melodies while humming them to yourself, but there aren't many people out there who are creating chord structures in their head while out in the world, away from any kind of instrument, and there's even less people these days that just use manuscript paper. What seems to work good a lot of the time is to just play around with something that feels best in the moment, then listen back to it a day or two later, and then maybe reassess things if you find that the original ideas were just too boring or long or cheesy or whatever. Now, music theory is not the main focus on this channel, and while it may be a good idea to at least have some of that subconsciously baked into the thought process, it's not always necessary to actively engage with it while writing. However, experimenting with a lot of different things before just settling on something simple can lead to results that you'd otherwise overlook if you had only stuck to the basics. For example, the middle 8 in this song. And for those of you who are new, the middle 8 in a song is a section in the middle of a song, typically 8 bars, that departs and is different from the other parts of the song. So that part in this song was at one point dark and moody before it became obvious that it wanted to be almost opposite that, while still retaining a little bit of the tension left over from the first attempt. So in the end, taking the time to experiment with a few different options paid off in the end, because it led to somewhere more unique than it would have otherwise. So here's how that ended up sounding. I also tried a rhythmic shift in the pre-chorus and a modulation to the key of E major in the chorus, before settling on a good old B major progression with a few little additions here and there to make it more interesting. So originally that sounded like this. I think that's where I modulated to this E part. This was the original chorus. Something like that. I don't know. So moving on, it can greatly benefit the melody of a song if you start on a note away from the tonic of the key. For instance, in this song, the first note played is the third of B. And in the key of B major, that would be D sharp. And then it slides down to the tonic, which is B. This is just opinion, but starting away from the tonic can be a good first step towards what makes music more interesting and magical. And that's what led to this little bass line. Also, usually while messing around on the primary instrument that the song is to be written on, different vocal melodies will undoubtedly be whispering to you at this point. It's really beneficial to record these as they happen, even if it's just on your phone or something, because it's very easy for them to be lost within seconds of them coming into your head. You can basically use the same process for the vocals as you did with the other instruments. However, the main difference here is that you're actually dealing with words and not just musical language. So the chances for you to make something that is completely misunderstood or boring or whatever, it increases exponentially. So get the ideas down quick, sit on them for a little while, maybe a day or two, come back, reassess things, write them out a few times, maybe change some words here and there, until you get to a point where you can come back a few days later and listen to them without cringing. Then you'll know you're onto something. All right, so to wrap this video up, let's look at the drums real fast. So I covered the drums pretty well in the Superior Drummer 3 review/tutorial video. So if you're interested in that, go check that out, because these are actually audio prints of the samples from Superior Drummer 3. What I did was I played the drums in a not very good sounding room, and then I converted the audio for my performance into samples in Superior Drummer 3. So check out that video if you're interested in that. Aside from that, I don't want to say that they pretty much wrote themselves, but on a song like this, they kind of did. Although in the chorus, the drum rolls actually dictated the rest of the song, such as here. It just added some excitement, so the rest of the instruments are kind of just chilling back while the drums take over for a second. And there they kind of complement the background vocals. Other than that, it's just straight ahead kick and snare. Just providing a nice beat in the background to keep the song moving. All right, so that wraps up this video. Again, I really hope you got something useful out of it. And if any questions came up during the viewing of it, then please post them in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this content, then please like and subscribe, and you can check out the rest of the playlist at your leisure. All right, thanks again, and I'll see you next time.